Headed right into the sun, thank goodness, because at the start of today's run, it was minus 20 degrees Fahrenheit. So I thought it was the perfect time to review my winter running kit, how I layer and how I survive in the really, really cold, brutal temperatures of Jackson Hole, Wyoming. I'm asked all the time how I layer, what clothes I wear, how do I run in the very cold winter here in Jackson Hole. And so every few years, I like to kind of update how I dress, my layering system, some shoes. So we're gonna dive into it today. Might be a long one, but that's all right. First off though, we have to talk about my weather here and what winter is like here in Jackson Hole. It is so beautiful, but it's twice as cold this morning as it was last morning, minus 30. But look at this. Just crazy beautiful this morning. And I like to say I have 3 levels of cold. And it's important to understand what kind of weather we have here because it's going to be a little different based on where you live. We have very cold but very dry winters here. And the irony is that typically the warmer it is, the wetter it is. The colder it is, the more dry it is. When it's very, very cold, usually the sun is out and it's dry. We don't get a lot of wind when it's very, very cold. And we're gonna talk about what very, very cold means in a minute. But again, on the flip side, if it's on the warmer side of cold, that's typically when we see gray clouds and when we get snow and when it can be a little bit more humid. Okay, so just that's kind of important to understand. Okay, so let's dive into my 3 cold levels. So level 3, or the coldest level, is temperatures that I consider anywhere below minus 10 degrees Fahrenheit. The coldest I've ever run here in Jackson is minus 30. And I actually prefer colder weather. Like I mentioned, colder weather brings sun. So typically when it's level 3, level 2 that we'll talk about in a minute, the sun is out, which helps a lot. And it's dry. The snow's crunchy. It's hard snow. It's very, very good running snow, okay, because it is dry. It doesn't get icy. And so actually the colder the weather, the better the snow is for running. Level 2 would be temperatures that are anywhere between minus 10 degrees Fahrenheit and 10 degrees above 0 Fahrenheit. So again, level 2, kind of between the 10s, negative 10 to plus 10. Okay, and then level 1 would be what I would consider any temperatures above that 10 degrees. And I'm gonna quantify level 1 as being maybe more of kind of 10 degrees Fahrenheit to 20 degrees Fahrenheit. So we're gonna use these 3 levels to work our way into my system based on what level I'm running in, because it really is dependent on the temperature. Okay, so let's get going on level 3 temperatures. First and foremost, I am wearing a underbrief that's gonna give me some length, just above the knee. Okay, nothing special with this. And as we get into this, I wanna mention that there's probably gonna be only one gear product that I'm gonna recommend a specific brand. All of this is brand agnostic. It's just what I've had and collected through the years. So I'm really not recommending any specific brand. We'll talk more about the functionality, which is the most important thing. So this is not an ambassador type of video or an affiliate where you're gonna see links down below. There's none of that. This is just what I've accumulated through the years. And again, it's about the functionality and the philosophy that goes behind it. So let's dive in. So again, I'm putting on some type of tight short that's, again, very tight. It's kind of a compression wear that goes just above my knee. So I've got this on underneath, and it's going to look something similar to that, okay? And then key for level 3 is a bib tight that is lined with fleece. So underneath is going to be a fleece line that's going to give me warmth, okay? And so I've got that on, and the reason I like a bib system, we'll get into the upper body in a minute, but I can now put my bib on and it comes up and I can tuck everything underneath. And when it's cold, there's nothing worse than having clothes feel like they're coming untucked or you don't have them tucked in. So again, this bib system kind of comes all the way up through here, and it's I can just tuck everything in, and it feels secure. It almost feels like compression wear feels like sometimes, where everything's just underneath it, and I never have that sensation that wind's blowing up or that my skin is going to be exposed. So that, and again, that's the key. You don't want to expose skin. So again, the system with the bibs, this is a cycling bib, but without the pad. So typically there's not a lot of bib running tights on the market. So this is a cycling specific. I think it's Pearl Izumi is the brand. But again, without the cycling pad, it's just a normal running tight in a bib system, so I can tuck everything underneath. Okay. So then up above, and what we need to understand when we're layering is that the piece of apparel that is closest to the skin, the purpose of that, especially in level 3 temperatures, is that this is a wicking system. So you can see this is, again, just an old, you can see those perforations. Again, this is just an old cycling undershirt that I wear against my skin. So I would have that underneath. And again, the idea is the purpose of the layering system that goes against your skin, the sole purpose is for wicking perspiration away from your body. And that's super critical when things are very, very cold. And I would consider level 3 very, very cold. So I would have that on first, and then I'm putting this huge turtleneck on over my wicking system. And again, this is a fleece line. I don't know if you can see that. I'm going to try to pull away and get it against the white. But the key to this type of fleece is, and I'll show it in this one. So you can see that waffle fleece. Okay, this waffle fleece is on the inside of the garment, and it's hard to see with the black, but it's the same kind of waffle system. And this fleece waffle system is a pretty common thing in a lot of garments. So you want to look for something that's waffled on the inside, that's fleeced, okay? Because now this second layer is going to be what is providing your warmth. Okay, again, remember the first layer is for wicking. Now this black layer that's long sleeve has the waffle fleece inside. That's my warmth. Okay, this is very thin, fits really close tight to my body, but it's super, super warm. Okay, and that's where that waffle fleece kind of comes in. I found it's the best warmth without feeling like you have a lot of stuff on you. Okay, super, super warm. And again, this is another cycling garment from Rafa that I like because it does have this huge turtleneck that I can, a lot of times when I'm first starting, when it's level 3 cold, I like to put this over everything as I warm up. So as I breathe in the cold air, it's warming the air before it gets into my lungs. And we'll talk about my buff in a minute. And then if we're on the colder end of level 3, again, remember I mentioned I ran in minus 30 degrees. I will put this zipped up hoodie on. And now I've got 2 layers of warmth. And again, it's that waffle fleece zip. And then the key to this is now I've got my turtleneck, and now I've got a nice hoodie that you can zip up, and you're super, super warm, but it's not feeling cumbersome like a normal hood would. And then I'm set to go. And then the third layer is typically a jacket. And so the purpose of the third layer is protection. Okay, so again, here the mid layers for warmth. Now I'm picking protection, okay, for my outer layer. And this is just a print on demand jacket that I put my logo on that I actually have come to love because it is lined, so now I get a little breathability, okay? There's no warmth here, just a little bit of protection for wind. And now I put this on. And another reason I like this jacket, you zip it up. It has another hood. So what I'll do is, again, when it's super cold, when we're starting out, I'll put this on, and it's just a way to kind of cut that edge when you first start out. Sometimes the hardest part about running in cold weather is just getting out the door because you know it's cold, and it just messes with your mind a little bit. So I really kind of bundle up, and then I'm able to warm up a little bit. But it kind of comes high here. It zips high, and it's not encumbersome, and it just doesn't bother me here, okay? And the other part is that it's long, and so it kind of covers my glutes a little bit and just kind of keeps some warmth there, okay? So again, this outer layer is for protection. And then let's talk about the head system. So what I've got is I've got a buff underneath my turtleneck. And so when I start out, I've got the buff tucked in the turtleneck. So again, I don't feel like wind's gonna blow in there. Everything's secure. And I'll put my buff up like this. I'm putting my waffled hoodie over that, zipping that baby up. And now nothing's exposed. And now I take my hat, nothing special about this hat. Any hats usually do. And I'll put this over it, okay? And that, zip it up, and now I'm good. Nothing's bothering me. I can turn my head, I can see. It just is so secure. It fits really nice, feels really nice, and I'm warm, and I'm breathable. Everything here is breathable, and it just works really well to keep me warm. And if it gets a little windy, I can put the buff up here. I can pull. There's just so many options I can do. I can take my hat off and take the buff off and put the hat back on and just have the hoodie. So it just, again, even though we're talking about very, very cold temperatures, it still allows me some layering options as I get out there. If I'm climbing a hill for a long time, I might need to kind of alter this system a little bit. Okay, and then we've got the head all going. Let's talk about hands. And this is where it comes in, where I'm gonna actually recommend a specific brand. What I do is I layer my hands. So I've got smart wool, just a very, very thin appearing glove that actually works with your phone on your thumb and your forefinger, which will come in handy with my GoPro when I'm making you guys videos. And then we've got a little cover here that allows me to add even more warmth if I need it. But these are super, super warm, okay? And then I've got a pair of REI mittens, again, throwing the mittens on over the gloves, okay? And I like the long mittens, so now, again, I get a lot of coverage. It's all about having coverage so the elements aren't hitting any part of your skin and you just feel tucked in. You know, it's like kind of like going camping and getting cold and your sleeping bag is off and you just can't get it around you. We want to eliminate that feeling, okay? So having long mittens there just pulls everything underneath. And I'm also on the other, where's my other, it also allows me to expose my watch. Take this off. So I've got my watch, so on this other side, I don't pull my sleeves over my watch, and I can just take that mitten over it. So then if I have to glance at my watch, I can just go and look at it and pull it back real quickly, okay? So again, I've got the glove system, and typically I don't put these over it, and then I'm putting. And the reason why I have the glove system first is that when I do a lot of GoPro stuff, okay? So when it's that cold, when we're talking minus 20 degrees, even taking your hand out of your mittens for just to operate the camera is enough to like never warm up, okay? So I can take my hand out of the mittens, operate the GoPro a little bit, okay, and then put it back in, and then put my mittens back on. So again, this hand is never really exposed to the air. And again, these smart wool gloves are amazing. They just are super warm, okay? So speaking of GoPro, I also have a quarterback arm warmer. So if you're a football fan, you maybe see quarterbacks in the cold weather. They've got something going around like this, and it attaches behind me, and I have it underneath my jacket like that, and then I put my jacket over it. So during my videos, if it looks like I put on a few pounds, it's actually this nice little hand warmer that I take my GoPro and just slide in, and it keeps it nice and warm. Okay, if you know anything about GoPros, they're great for a lot of things, but what they're not great for is their battery life. And when I'm in level 3 temperatures and I'm out there even talking for a few minutes, I may lose my battery within a couple minutes. So I've got to keep it nice and warm here, and I found that this actually works really nice, and kind of comes in handy for other things as well, but mostly I'm just sliding my GoPro in and out of it really easily to keep it warm, keep it out of the temperature. So got that. And then let's talk about headgear, okay? Super cold, super windy. I'm gonna take some ski goggles, and now, you know, I can really be out of the elements, and I'm super warm, okay? It just makes all the difference in the world, and it's hard to describe how much fun winter snow running is in these really cold temperatures, because the snow is so fun, okay? When the goggles are overkill, one key thing about the goggles, if you go to the goggles and you put them on, the key, since you're breathing and the air is warm and it's an aerobic environment, with your activity, try to avoid taking your glasses off or taking the goggles off, because now they're going to steam. So once you put them on, keep them on, okay? But if these are overkill, I like to use wraparound lenses. These are kind of some of the glasses I use most common anyways. And again, I like just the wrap. So if it is windy or the wind, just the wind of running kind of keeps you warm that way. And again, when it's cold, the sun's out, you don't get a lot of glare. These are for sunny days. I've got a pair that aren't as reflective. And again, it's kind of just gives the wraparound feel that I like, and I can really kind of be out of the elements. And then when it comes to socks, I have a variety of maybe a lighter, thinner pair. That I tend to prefer lightweight, thin socks anyways. So I usually tend to grab thinner, but they're also very long. So again, they'll kind of go all the way up to the calf and just below the knee, regardless of the thickness I'm picking for the day. Here's a thicker pair, but again, more length. So again, I just get a little bit of warmth, especially if I might be going into some areas that I might go through some powder, where, you know, I might go up to my calves in snow, and this just kind of gives me a little bit of a warmth for that. All right, let's talk level 2 temperature layering. And no difference in the lower body from level 3 to level 2. I still have my bib and my long short tights on underneath. And so that doesn't change. What changes is up above. And now my wicking system becomes my warmth and my wicking. So I just use a wool long sleeve shirt. I've got a variety of them. You know, nothing special, just wool. It's got to be wool and lightweight. And the reason I use wool is because most of the time my running falls into level 2 temperatures. You know, that minus 10 to 10 degrees. That's the temperatures I'm running in most. And so having wool allows it to not stink very much. So I can get maybe a full week of running in one shirt before I throw it in the laundry and switch shirts. So again, wool just doesn't allow it to stink very much. And so I like the wool. I like how it feels in that type of temperature. Again, it wicks, but also allows some level of warmth even when it gets maybe a little sweaty. And that's one of the good things about wool, is that even if it gets wet, it stays warm. Okay, so that's what changes from going to level 3 to level 2. Just no undershirt, just my long sleeve wool shirt. And then depending on, so let me go, I'll tuck it into my bibs, right? I'll get dressed for you. So I got my bibs coming up. So everything's secure underneath, right in the midsection there. It feels nice and good. Okay, and so I'm secure. So then the question is, what type of run am I going to be doing, and where am I going to be doing it? If I'm going to be doing an easy, long, flat run where I'm not exerting a lot of level of effort, I may go back to my zip up hoodie that we talked about in level 3 with the waffle fleece lined. So I might toss that on, gets me a hood. And again, when maybe it's just longer, flatter, lower level of intensity. If on the flip side, I may be going to some trails where I might be doing some climbing, where that level of effort is a little bit higher, I might go to an insulated vest system. And again, this is a cycling vest. The reason I like cycling vests is that their cycling gear is light years ahead of running gear, and they'll have, you know, very strategic breathing panels that go into this. But this is super warm. But again, it will keep kind of my torso warm. But when the level of effort becomes higher, you know, it's just this might be a little overkill because this is so warm in those temperatures and that type of an easier run. So zip this up. I'm ready for the trails. I'm ready for climbing. I'm ready for a little higher level of intensity. And then going back to my outer layer and good to go. And then kind of the buff and hat system doesn't change. Where'd my hat go? There it is. So it's gonna look kind of something like this. And again, I might start with my hood up, zip it up, get a little bit warm, maybe 5-10 minutes in. I'm unzipping and taking that off. Got my glasses on and I'm good to go. I usually will definitely go with the lighter pair of socks, and maybe some days I'll go with the knee high, and other days I might just go with regular kind of crew length style of socks. Just kind of depends on the day where I'm going to be, and it's less of a decision than in level 3. Okay, and then I might just go with my mittens. Okay, no inner layer with my gloves. I can just easily slip them on and I'm good. It's not as cold, so if I'm YouTubing a little bit, it's not as big of a deal with my hands being exposed and then they're back in. And the reason I use the mittens is now they just stay super warm. And I forgot to mention, in level 3, the reason I use mittens is because they're just warmer than gloves. And oftentimes I can even tuck my thumb in with the rest of my fingers to keep them warm, where the thumb is not in its thumbs, because that will even get cold. And with that, I am normally a size large in mittens and gloves, but I go up to extra large just so I can fit that thumb in there. I'm able to then fit a layering system underneath. So I always size up in my mittens, so I just have a little bit more room in my mitten. I may sometimes, when you're fueling and eating, the fuel really starts to freeze, especially if it's like a bar. I'll stick some fuel in here to warm it up and then take it out and eat it. Okay, so having an extra size mitten kind of goes a long way with, gives you a lot of variety as far as staying warm and putting things inside, whether it's the layering system or food or whatever. So, and it just doesn't feel too big. Okay, yeah, so that's really it for level 2. Okay, on to level 1. This is where things significantly change with these warmer temperatures. So I still will wear some type of stretchy compression short tight that is my base layer down below. But then I move away from my bib and fleece tights to just a normal running tight. No fleece, it's just lycra and stretchy. I prefer kind of a compression feel. You know, I know some runners like a little bit more relaxed type of pant. In the cold, I like the feeling of compression for no other reason than just the feeling it gives me. So again, going to level 1, I just get away from using fleece tights to just normal everyday running tights. Okay, that's the big change. And then up above, I'm still sticking with my long sleeve wool shirt, nothing underneath. And then I'm going to my jacket. And that's really it. Okay, I always like to have a buff with me, but I may start in it just to cut the edge a little bit. But quite oftentimes I don't even need that. I'll just toss on a hat, and now I've got the hood a little bit. I might just have that on for a little bit until I warm up. And then the reason I like the high zip is that I can still take the hood off and zip it back up, and it kind of my lower neck is covered, and I'm good to go. Other thing that significantly changes at this level 1 is I ditched the mittens, and depending on the day, I will go with my Smart Wool gloves that have the little wind and warmth protector that becomes a mitten, kind of acts as a mitten. But I found that even though these are super, super thin and they don't look like they're very warm, they're super warm. And that's why I'm recommending the Smart Wool. So sometimes at level 1, these can be overkill, okay? So most times I'll go to just a half glove, if you can see that. And so I've got a half glove on, but then it's got the flip to the mitten. And so this at level 1 temperatures keeps me nice and warm, and oftentimes like the second part of the run, I'm ditching the mitten part, and I'm exposing my fingers because again it's warm enough where I'm able to do that. But so again, options is a key. Okay, so I've got my gloves, mittens / combo on, same glasses. Again, I like the wrap around, and I'm good to go. Socks, kind of normal socks. Nothing really changes there. Nothing more than what you typically wear on any given day, other than maybe ankle height socks. So I like the crew length. So there's level 1. So I did want to mention, in the beginning, I mentioned that very rarely am I running in wet or wet snow or rain. It's usually very dry, but many of you are in wetter, more humid climates, so I don't have to think about my outer layer protection from a precipitation standpoint. But if you are, I would just replace this type of jacket with something that's water resistant, water repellent, to, again, that outer layer is protection, okay? So this is more of a wind protection for me, and then more of a rain type of jacket would provide you in wetter climates that protection from really wet, thick, dense, water-based snow. So just for whatever that's worth, that outer system that might be different than what I do is finding something that's water repellent to act for whatever protection you need. And that goes with your hat. Maybe you have a Gore-Tex hat, Gore-Tex gloves. Anything that you're going to get wet, you're going to want to protect yourself from that wet, especially if it's going to be a longer run. The death of you in a long, cold run is getting wet, whether it's from sweat or from precipitation. So that outer layer, again, whether it's on your hands, glove, wherever, you want to protect it from that precipitation. All right, what have we forgot, right? The fun stuff, the shoes. So I'm always asked, do I wear spikes or micro spikes? No. Again, going back to our type of weather and snow conditions, when it's good snow running, it's very dry. It's like being on a trail. It really doesn't get slippery. So when I'm running on trail on snow, the only consideration I'm giving is the lugs. So I gravitate to what would be considered a soft ground trail shoe, where the lugs are a little deeper, 6 to 8 mil deep lugs. This old pair of Solomon has a nice little booty that I really like if I'm going to be in a little bit of deep snow. But all I need really is a deep lugged shoe that's going to allow me to really bite into the snow. Another newer pair I've got is the Innovate. And again, really deep lugged pattern that really just bites into the snow. again, when I'm on snow. And I tend to go rather minimal and flexible, low drop in the snow. Just again, it gives me more dexterity, more agility when you're on snow and on trails. And then right now we don't have great snow coverage on the valley, so when we're in deep winter, most everything gets covered in snow. So having a shoe like this will be what I pick most of the time. But when it's right now, we don't have that coverage, so I'm just using normal trail shoes. I usually tend to use trail shoes in the winter, no matter what, just in case it's a little spotty and mixed, and a lot of times I'll encounter a little ice or a little tarmac or a little bit of snow. So I tend to like to use any type of trail shoe on those days that I don't need the bite, but it's just a traditional trail shoe with a little bit less lugs than this. So that's the shoe system. So, all right. Hope you enjoyed. This is a long one. So over and out from Jackson Hole, Born to Run World. See you guys.
Oh, I love that so much.
Isn't it awesome?
Looks amazing.